Hello everyone, and welcome to the webinar XML Publishing Fast and Easy with XMetaL and tekReader, presented by Just Systems Canada and Igloo Technologies. We're coming to you today from Vancouver, Canada and Sydney, Australia. My name's Tom McGleary, and with me are David Cools and Don Stoley from our partner Igloo Technologies. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you of the usual logistical details of a webinar like this. First of all, we are recording this webinar, and we'll be sending out a link afterwards to everyone who registered, whether you're attending or not. Second, all attendees will be on mute throughout the session, but note that there is a QA panel or a questions panel on the right-hand side of your screen where you can type any questions that you have for us during the presentation. We are planning to have some time at the end of the presentation where we can go through and answer the questions that have come in. And finally, there is also a chat panel on the right-hand side that you can use to communicate with us if you have any non-question related comments. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to David Cools from Igloo Technologies, who will be our MC for today's session.
Thanks, Tom. This is David Cools, and I work for Igloo Technologies, the company responsible for tekReader. Delivering the demonstrations today are Tom, who you've just heard from Just Systems, and Don Stoley, Igloo Technologies COO and founder. The agenda for today will follow a natural publishing process using XMetaL and tekReader. Tom will take you through a demo of using XMetaL to create the document and publish it directly to tekReader. Don will then demonstrate that document in tekReader and talk more about the publishing process. We're really excited today to be able to show you XMetaL and tekReader in action together for the first time. You'll see a new level of efficiency for creating and publishing even the most complex documents. XMetaL gives you a user-friendly, versatile authoring environment, and coupled with tekReader allows you to reach your entire audience in one single action. What you'll see today are simple but powerful concepts that, when put together, open up a whole new set of interesting possibilities with your content and the benefit that people get from that content. So I'll hand over to Tom, who will start by using XMetaL to carry out some common content creation tasks. Tom?
Okay, thanks again, David. And our presentation today, as you can guess, is going to be largely demo, but I do want to just set the groundwork with a slide or two here to let you know what I'm going to be doing. So what Don and I are going to be doing, rather, as David said, the demo is going to consist of demonstrations of both XMetaL Author and tekPublish and tekReader. Together, this is an authoring and publishing solution for XML structured authoring. If you're familiar with the concepts of structured authoring in general, of XML publishing in general, then you know that this is really two of the big three components of a typical XML solution. It is possible to do XML publishing without content management, but we're not showing any content management features today. We're focusing on the author and publishing aspects of it. So one of the key ideas behind publishing with XML, and what's going to motivate a lot of what I'm doing in the authoring demo today, is that markup, or your tags in your document, corresponds to features in the output. If you want something to happen, something particular to happen in your output, then you need to indicate that in some way via some tags or some markup in your document. And conversely, if you do something in the markup or the tags in your document, then there are going to be effects in the output. So in terms of our demo today, XMetaL is going to be the authoring side of the picture, and Igloo Technologies products are the publishing side of the picture. Both of these tools, XMetaL and tekPublish and tekReader, are general purpose tools, meaning that they can work with any type of XML documents. The markup that we're going to happen to be using during the demo today is a DTD created by tekReader. So let me tell you a little bit about XMetaL, so you can just so you know what you're going to see during my portion of the demo. XMetaL is a tool for creating content in a structured fashion, and or another way to think of it is that it's a way of adding markup to your content. During my portion of the demo, I'm going to be showing some features of XMetal, and of course talking probably at longer length than I should about what it is that you're seeing and what it is that we do. But at the same time, I'm going to have a directed purpose, which is adding markup that shows specific features of tekReader. So our demos are going to sort of tie together that way. I'll try to stay on mission and stick to my script as much as I can for Don's benefit. So as we go into the demo, there are three key strengths of XMetal that I normally talk about when I'm doing demos that I'd like you to keep in mind for the authoring side of the picture. So our key strengths are the user experience. We've always focused on making XMetal as usable and user-friendly of a tool as we can. Secondly, extensibility and customizability. XMetal is really not just a general-purpose XML editor, but also a platform for creating a special purpose XML editor for your particular flavor of XML. And there are many, many ways that XMetal has built in to facilitate that. And thirdly, the partnerships. Of course, we're doing this demonstration together in conjunction with our partner, Igloo Technologies, and that's just one example of the companies that we partner with, and we'll see one more example of that actually during the demo. Okay, that's enough for the talking. Let's get into the demo. So I hope that you're seeing my screen, and I've shared with you XMetal Author. Oh, I'm hearing that you're not seeing my screen. Wow. That was a long time of not seeing my screen and not paying attention to the chat. Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, Tom, Dawn here, we can't see your screen. Now we can see it.
Now we should, yeah.
All good.
Sorry about that, everybody. If I'd been paying attention to the chat window, I would have noticed that. Here's the slides you missed. Demo overview, blah, blah, blah. XMetal Author is a tool, blah, blah, blah. You'll see those slides. I just ran back through those so that you'd be able to see those in the webinar recording later. So back to the XMetal demo. So here's XMetal. XMetal is a Windows application for the desktop. As I mentioned, we've tried to make XMetal for as many years as it's been around. We've been focused on making XMetal as easy to use as possible. Structured authoring is really a different kind of a beast than old school word processing or desktop publishing, but we've tried to make the process of using XML as much like that as is possible, given the constraints that XML puts upon us. So to that end, we've tried to simplify the interface, and as you can see here, there's no need for a great deal of clutter, although there actually is a lot of capability that I have, extra panels and so on that I have hidden in XMetal right now because I don't need them for everyday authoring. But you see we have some toolbars that have just a few basic commands, and we have a main window which shows an XML document that I'm going to be working in. So this document is showing via a style sheet that defines the fonts and the colors and the margins and so on, the general look and feel of the document, this WYSIWYG-like look and feel. Although this we call this WYSIWYG, but with XML Publishing, of course, what you see on the screen is not necessarily what the output is going to look like, and you'll see it that when we look at the output in tekReader, that particular example looks very different from in many ways from what we see here during the authoring process. So this is an XML editor, though, and to that end, of course, we have different views of the XML. One of the views is a tags on view. So if I turn my tags on, then you can see the XML structure of the document. You can also see the plain text view, but this is a view that I never recommend that our customers use. There's no need to going in and seeing angle brackets in an authoring tool such as XMetal. So what I'd like to do now is just start showing you some of the features of of how we make XMetal easy to use, let's just go back to the normal view where we don't even have XML tags and show you how working in XMetal is just like working in a word processor. So if I've got my cursor right here at the end of this introduction section right now, if I simply press the Enter key, then XMetal automatically inserts a new paragraph, as well as giving me a hint as to what has just been inserted there. So I don't even have to see my tag to know that I've inserted a paragraph and that this is what I need to type here. When I start typing, my helper hint goes away. And as long as I keep pressing the Enter key, I keep getting new paragraphs. And this seems like such a sort of a low-level, strange thing to emphasize, but I emphasize it because, well, two reasons. One is that this is sort of the natural way that you expect an editor to behave, and we've done this in XMetal in as many situations as we can. We've tried to make the tool behave the way that you're accustomed to working in a word processor or desktop publishing environment. And so this is just one of the ways. We call it natural structured authoring sometimes. Where was I going with that? But the other, I forget. There was another point I wanted to make about that, but never mind. Anyway, so making the editor work and feel as much like a word processor as you can. Another thing about the Enter key is this is in contrast to many other XML editors, where when you press the Enter key in their structured authoring environment, instead of inserting a new element, what you get is an intimidating pop-up menu that shows you a long list of the available elements from your DTD or your schema that are allowed to be inserted there, and you have to know which element you're picking from in order to in order to pick from the list the element that you want next. Our philosophy in XMetal is that the tool should guide you as much as possible, and so we always make the next best guess as to what element should go in next, and put that element in for you automatically. As another example of that, if I go down here and in the next section into this ordered list, or into this bulleted list, pressing an Enter key in a list gives you another list item. And the same thing goes here, and going back to making the tool behave like a word processor, if you're at the end of a list and you press the Enter key in a tool like that, then you expect the list to close out and to be able to start typing a paragraph afterwards. And that's again simulated here in XMetal. I want to turn my tags on before I do that so you can see what really happens, because there's a lot of intelligence going on behind the scenes. So I'll press the Enter key now, and when I do, watch what happens. The list item will go away completely, and I'll actually move outside of the list tag and be placed into a new paragraph that follows the list. So that was all just by pressing a single Enter key. All right, so that's making XMetal look like a word processor. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to start adding some text that's specific to the demo, and along the way we'll see some of the other capabilities of XMetal. I mentioned in my introductory comments that XMetal is both a general purpose XML editor as well as a platform for creating your own special purpose editor for your own particular flavor of XML. So to that end, many of the features that you see that you'll see me demonstrate are built into XMetal no matter what DTD you're working with, while some other features that I'll show are ones that are here specifically because we put them here for this particular type of XML that we're working with. And in particular, up here on the toolbar, you can see the effects of the work that we did for customizing XMetal. And when I say we, I mean me. So all the credit for this lovely set of icons goes solely to me. And I'm not a user interface designer, so that's why we've got what we've got here. Anyway, so I've got, for example, an icon here for inserting a section in my document, and I'm going to do that. And I'd like that section to go right here in front of this section, so I'm going to click on the button, and a new section element gets inserted in my document. So you can see that when I inserted that section, there is a whole a little collection of tags that went in there. There's a section tag which contains an H1 for a heading as well as a P for a paragraph. And again, the helper hints telling me what telling me what needs to be done here. The heading size of this section is incorrect by my, but with the script that I wrote to insert a section. But I also wrote some script that changes that. So this DTD allows for headings of all different sizes interchangeably, and so I can change that to the particular heading size that I want by clicking on these other items. Those features, everything I do from this custom toolbar here are things that I've built specifically for this DTD. This particular item, though, or this particular change, though, changing a heading from H1 to H2 to H3, because the DTD allows those elements interchangeably, it just so happens that XMetal has a built-in feature that would also have helped me in this case. And I'll just show you what that one is. Actually, there are a couple different ways you can do it, but one of them is to go to the Edit menu and say Change Element, and this opens a side panel, which gives me a list of all the elements that this element can be changed into, and I can select from this list. So here you see my different heading types. So if I make that heading 6 and say OK, then now that's changed to a level 6. That's just to show you a contrast between some of the built-in features of XMetal and the sort of user experience that they give you versus the kind of thing that you can do if you decide that you want to customize the tool yourself. And so in this particular example, I added a script macro that would let me just change that heading around from the toolbar. All right, let's get on with some demo here. So I'd actually like to add several more of these sections. So because I'm going to be putting in several things for my several bits of code. So I'm just going to pre-populate that with a few. And let's see, this is going to be an H2, and this is going to be where I put some SVG code. So let's show you what inserting a graphic looks like in XMetal. There are actually graphics is one of the things that are standard feature in XML documents, and features for that built into XMetal as well. But I also wrote a little macro code that would help out with some of the markup in the case of the demo. So I'm going to click on my macro button that lets me insert an SVG, and so this gives me a dialog that lets me select my element. And when I say OK, nothing happens. Let's try that again. I don't know what's going on here. Try that again. Choose my element. Okay, just do the same thing again, and it's bound to work again. That's the basic solution to every computer problem. Just try it again, and it'll work just fine. So you can see that my macro inserted some markup here. So it inserted a figure element, which contains a graphic element, which contains the image that I pointed to, and then it also inserted a caption template here. So this is SVG. Now that SVG will show us some whiz-bang features when we see it in the published document later in Dawn stuff. Now let's look at some other kinds of graphics. So in addition to SVG, of course, XMetal and tekReader support various other kinds of graphics as well. So here is a figure with a PNG graphic, and same thing again. It's try that again. Here's a figure with a PNG graphic, and this is a caption again. Okay, that was great. So here is a heading level 2. That one up there is a heading level 2. The tags are just getting in my way. So here is next I'd like to do show you what a list looks like. Here is what some lists look like in tekReader. And so this is what I had for lunch. So in XMetal, in the authoring side, a list is going to, we've already seen some lists, but let's show you one of the ways that you can create lists. So I had a sandwich, and I had some soup, and I had some chips. This is North American chips, not English chips. So once you've created some paragraphs in XMetaL, then there's a button in XMetaL that lets you change paragraphs into a list, so I'll do that. It so happens that tekReader supports various kinds of lists, and this DTD lets you change the type of your list. So to do that, I can go to the attribute inspector in XMetaL and change the list type. So the list type supports several different kinds, and you can see if I select Roman, that's for Roman numerals, and so I see Roman numerals here, but those are actually part of the style sheet, and the tekReader, tekPublish and tekReader will have their own style sheets, which will produce their own Roman numerals. The list supports other types too. There's alphabetical for A, B, C. There's ordered for numbers, regular old decimal numbers. There's none, which means don't give me any bullets at all. I'm going to leave it on this last one, dashes. Those don't look like dashes because it just so happens that dashes is something that's difficult for XMetaL to draw. But because the markup says dashes, type equals dashes in the UL tag itself, you'll see that when this document is published, there actually will be dashes in the published output. So I'm leaving that like that so we can see driven home an example of how things may not necessarily look the same in your published output as they do when you're doing your authoring. Another common feature of most XML document types is tables, and so of course XMetaL supports tables. Let's insert a table. This is a built-in feature of XMetaL, being able to add a table, select the number of rows and columns. Of course, this assumes that your DTD or your XML document type supports tables, but if you do, then XMetaL does. So there's a table. XMetaL has tons and tons of the kinds of features you would expect for working in tables, messing around with rows, messing around with columns, setting headers, setting properties on all your cells. There are a few neat things like being able to sort your column by row or sort your table by rows in different ways. Where's my fill thing? Is it on the? Here it is. Nope. Here's my. Why can't I do my fill? Oh. One thing you can do is if you have a number in a table, then you can do this fill series, which will. Well, I don't know what useful purpose it serves, but it makes it easy for me to fill up a table with numbers. You can see I did that fill series, and it filled my whole table with numbers. You can merge cells in a table. If you select a couple of cells, then you can say, let's merge this one to the right, and those two cells become merged together. I can merge these two cells down. So here's another merge, and we'll merge this one down. What else can I do? I can you can set properties on individual cells, or row by row, or column, or table, or across the whole table. If I do table properties, for example, then I can set my properties on this cell. Let's just do the text alignment. Not that one, that one. And so I've got those numbers aligned in the center. So we'll see all of these things reflected in tekReader's support of tables as well. Tables also have titles. My template for tables that I have built into XMetaL at this moment didn't pre-populate the table, but I can back that up by going to the element list and saying, here it is, by saying insert a new element, and let's insert a title, and this is a title for my table. I don't want those guys cluttering up my screen so much. Okay, so that's what tables look like in XMetaL. There are some textual, just various little bits and pieces of elements that are supported by the tekReader DT that I'd like to demonstrate. There are some special features built in for doing definitions and abbreviations and footnotes. And so let's have a look at what some of those look like. This is a demo with a lot of torque. So it so happens that tekPublish, the publishing tool, has a definitions file that in which you can specify a whole set of definitions to be made available for authors. And I wrote a little macro that reads the definitions file and lets you select a definition. So as you can scroll up and down through the list, and here's the one which is the definition of torque. I'm going to say I want that one. So all that's happened here in the markup is that this DFN tag was added here along with an ID that references to a definition name, and we'll see later that the publishing engine picks up on that ID and then reads that same definition that we saw in our dialog, and will show that to you, show that to the reader when they're reading that document. Here is an abbreviation called, I don't know, XML. So if you want to make a particular term into to specify it as an abbreviation for something, then you can ask the author, what is the expansion of this? It's extensible markup language. And now again, this I've created some markup here that's going to provide some special functionality when we view it, when we view the published document in tekReader. In addition to this, let's just give this a footnote. So I don't have a button on my toolbar for footnote, but all I need to do is add an element. So here's that element list again, and I can select the footnote element and say this is a footnote. And here I've put the footnote text, so the text is actually what I'm typing here. This is the text of the footnote. And as you can expect, when this document gets published, that footnote becomes put to where footnotes go, which is a special place in tekReader. And what will appear here in the flow of this paragraph is just that superscript, whether it's a 1 or 2 or whatever it might be, depends on how many footnotes we have in the text. Okay, so what do we have left to do? I think the only thing I have left to show you is a little bit of math. And with the math, I want to segue into reminding you of what those 3 points were that were the key strengths of XMetal. So the first one was usability, and I hope I've showed you how creating XML markup is a fairly easy process with and not too complex looking with XMetal. The second point was customizability and extensibility, and I hope that I've demonstrated that with some of the add-on capabilities that I've demonstrated here in XMetal for this DTD, as well as some of the built-in features that I've tried to emphasize as we were going. And the third point, and I'm telling you this, I'm sort of giving my summary before I finish because we're going to be segueing on and I won't have my chance. So the third point was partnerships, and this sort of follows from the extensibility in one way, because one of the exciting things that extensibility gives us for a tool like XMetal is the ability to integrate third-party software with it. And so we've integrated not only tekPublish for the purposes of this demo, but XMetal also integrates with many other applications. And in this case, I can do that by I can demonstrate that by showing you how we can do some math. So there's a third-party tool called MathFlow, which allows you to edit MathML markup using a very fancy equation editor. So here is a little bit of math, and I have a button on my toolbar for that. There's actually 2 buttons here. So this MathFlow menu is installed by that third-party tool in XMetal. This button on the toolbar comes from them. I wrote my own macro for adding an equation because it adds just a little bit more of the markup that I need in this particular DTD for the math to work right. So I'm going to say add equation, and what happens here is that this is the third-party tool. This is not us. This is MathFlow from Design Science, and you can pick the math that you want. Well, of course I'm not really picking math here, but let's just pick. I'm just going to type in a jumble of random math symbols here into the editor, and you can see a little bigger view of what that looks like. The math code itself is XML markup, and this editor lets you see that as well. So there's the math, there's the actual math markup, but of course this is the view that you really want to work in. When you're done, the tool saves that math into our document and displays it as a nice little image here, so you can see, so you can view that here right inside the authoring tool. Publish and tekReader support MathML as well, and so you'll see how this math gets translated right on into the published document. So I think that's all I need to do for by way of the demo. So at this point, I'm going to publish, and so what's going to happen now is I'm going to launch Don's tool, and I'm going to publish from my end, and then Don is going to tell you what we're seeing from the other end. So I'm actually publishing to the cloud, and
so yeah, should I intervene here, Tom?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where's your little window there? There we go. So Tom's just submitted the publishing job, and what it's doing is zipping up the content files, any resources like graphics that may be involved with it. And then that publishing job starts to then unpack the zip file. So it zips it up, then unpacks it, and it starts resolving some doc type definitions and some file attributes that's needed on the XML documents. And it does some pre-processing, post-processing, and validation. So now it's done, and Tom can basically view that document in tekReader. So to launch tekReader, so this is now yep, just in a browser. You can see the URL up above there, and this is actually being uploaded to the cloud here in Australia. We're in Australia. I don't know if anyone's mentioned that. And if we go off to where Tom's actually inserted those document constructs, you can see that they're all there, and I can go into them a bit more when I do my part of the demo.
I think my part of the demo is done, Don, and I think it is your time for the demo. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, and I'll make you the presenter, and you'll be good to go.
Okay. Time to set up.
I'll get to my right panel here. Okay, there you go.
Okay, I've just got it now. So can everyone see my screen now? Tom or David Cools, can you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, I can see your screen, Don. Good.
Okay, so this is again tekReader. So as you can see from the URL up here, it's the exact same URL that Tom has published to. If I just do a refresh, it'll refresh the web browser. So tekReader is, we call it an HTML5 e-reader, and as you can see from the interface, it does sort of replicate your conventional e-readers that you find today. So what I'm going to do, my agenda is going to be, and I'm going to be rather quick because Tom, you took some time, which was fantastic, an enlightening demo. I'm just going to go through this interface with the top menus and the side menus, which is basically the application. So up top here and down to the left is the application. What you're seeing on the middle part, the pages, is the actual content that Tom has published. So if I can go into where Tom, that you did in the introduction. So, recapping what Tom's done, he's basically edited and created content way over there in Vancouver, Canada, and I'm now viewing it here in Sydney, Australia. And what he's done very simply with our DTD, which as you looked at it, you probably recognize it as maybe HTML5 or HTML type driven, but we've also sprinkled some XML attributes in there that drive the functionality of the tekReader application. So the SVG, if he's put a render type SVG on the graphic element, if I pop that up, it's going to pop up our SVG diagram. And these are the big, 1 meter wiring diagrams that you might get that you're eyeballing on a table with your eyes, obviously. So if you zoom in, because it's SVG, it keeps the actual quality of the graphic. And then you can go over here and roll around and view this big 1 meter wiring diagram from your desktop, from tekReader.
Don, can I interject one thing here? I think this SVG part of the demo is really spiffy, and no one saw me put an SVG attribute on that element in the document, and that's because I sort of I sort of hid that from the author, which was myself, by way of writing the macro code that set that markup for me automatically, and that was part of the point of my demo. But at the same time, it meant that you all didn't get to see that the markup that the tekReader e-reader needed was actually being set properly by XMetaL behind the scenes. Okay, go ahead, Don.
Thank you, Tom. So that's the power of XMetaL, and where you can do limited things to get some nice high quality output here in tekReader. So the web graphic, we move on to the other page. It works like the SVG viewer, but because Tom told it with his automatic button push that it's an image, a graphic image, if we hit that, it'll pop it up into a graphic viewer. And a little later on, I'm going to show you this in an iPhone 6 emulator. So basically, tekReader is responsive and adaptive. It responds and adapts to any screen size. And I might also mention that this is our version 3 of tekReader, which is a big step for us because we've provided end-to-end publishing in integration with obviously the editors like XML. And we've also enhanced the platform and basically provided an API-first approach. And I'll show you some of those public-facing APIs in a minute as well, very quickly. So, as you can see here, Tom's list of lunch he's had. I hope you're full, Tom. It looks like it was very tasty. And then we've got the tables here. So if your tables are maybe breaking over the next page, what we do with tekReader is we allow the user to look and view at the web browser as they like. So you might go into the settings here and say, I want to up the font size, which will bring that table off to that page size. Or you might say, I want to maybe look at this in a single page mode, and it'll pull it off into a single page mode. Double page, back to double page. And then while we're up here, we've got take offline, clean reader, change passwords and stuff. So you can basically take tekReader and the contents offline, and we use the app cache manifest file. And we're looking to implement a newer technology called service workers, which is a little more stable than the app cache is at the moment. So that's something we will be doing with our version 3. You can print, so if you have an accompanying PDF that you actually publish with the job and you hit print, it'll actually pop up the PDF file in a browser, and then you can print from there. So as we go through Tom's again, he's got this demo with a lot of torque, so he's put a definition behind that. So if I hit that, up pops the definition. And again, this is all built into the definitions XML file that, again, you can edit in XMetaL and publish it to populate the XMetaL editor and choose as you wish what definition you want. Here's our XML, so if I roll over, there's my extensible markup language abbreviation, and the footnote Tom put in. If I just click that footnote, it'll pop up with the actual text that he put into it. And of course, Tom mentioned that tekReader supports MathML, and here's the MathML here. If I click on the MathML content, it'll pop up into a larger window screen. What we're using here in tekReader is a JavaScript application called MathJax. So if I right-click that, it brings up the MathJax menu, and there's all sorts of things you can do in here. So I can go math settings and maybe hit that zoom factor to be 250. So next time I hit the graphic, it'll actually increase the size to 250. So we've got MathJax built into that as well. So as we go through the top menu item now, you can see that we can actually bookmark a page. And we only bookmark a single page. I know a lot of readers allow you to bookmark multiple times and attach comments and notes to them, but we basically handle that through our notes feature, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes. So if I start moving through the document, you can see the actual icon up at the top there stays the same. If I move back to my bookmark page, that icon will change and tell me that that page is the bookmark page. If I hit my documents list, this is like a little kind of a mini library with some documents that I'm allowed to look at here. We have a authentication authorization methods to allow users to go in and only view those documents that have been assigned to them. So you can see I've got the Danfoss WK, and I've got a bookmark excuse me, beside it. If I go over to my tekReader user guide, which is one of our standard documents that you can access publicly if you want, and I can show you that in a while, how to get that. If I go back to my Danfoss WK document, you can see it's brought me back to my actual bookmark. So to take a note, this is our note icon. I can select that, add notes, and as you roll over the content structure, you can see it highlights where you can actually add a note. So in there, I can hit that paragraph and then just type in, this is Don's note. So if I save that, turn off my notes, and roll over it, you can see all my notes are popped up with the content I've placed in there. And if I move now over to the left to my notes window, it's stored all my notes into my notes window there. So you can add notes and it'll just keep populating all the way down this screen. Now I can go in and edit that note from here, and I can say this is Don's note for today, and save that. So if I come out of that screen, I'm back over here, and you can see it's automatically updated that note over here on my page. And having Tom being able to sort of, you know, publish this in Vancouver and me viewing it here in Australia, and then adding notes, it might be a good way to actually review documents as well. A nice speedy way of doing that. So I can also edit the note from this area here. So if I turn the note back on and hit the paragraph, I can go in. This is Don's note for today and tomorrow. So if I save that, and then I'm back over here, you can see it's actually saved it in here as well. We also have a, I'll turn my note off or I'll get in trouble. I'll go to the contents window, and as you can see, this was all populated with our SVG web. These are all levels, section levels that Tom actually published from Vancouver. And he's also published tables. So this is a table title, a title for my table. And if I hit that, it'll head off to that table title and highlight down here. Then the highlight will go away. So you know exactly where you're going on the pages. We've also got a list of figures that we also publish. And after this demo of tekReader, I'll quickly go through TekPublish and show you how all that's easily set up. We've also published an abbreviations document. So these are abbreviations you can access from the side panel, and you can also access over here on the page. And then footnotes, there's the footnote Tom's put in. So it's telling you I've got footnotes, and you can actually head off to those footnotes as well. So it's highlighted the paragraph of the footnote, and then the highlight goes away. So if you have a whole different levels of contents, which you can also set up in TekPublish, you can collapse them all at once, or you can expand them all at once. And then you can also do them individually. So it's a great navigation tool to move around your documentation. And everything works the same with the tables and the figures if you've actually nested them within sections. We have a search capability here. So we've also published another XML file called key terms. So there's key terms that are inherent to this document. Every document sort of has their own sort of keywords. So if I just start typing in ADJ, I'll get a drop down on my keywords for adjustable speed drive. And if I select that and then search on it, it'll come up with the areas in the document where adjustable speed drive is nested in the actual sections. So if I head off to that, it's going to go in and highlight that area up here, and the adjustable speed drive is in a different toned highlight, and that's the keyword you've searched for, but it also will go through and individually show adjustable drive or any representative of these three words that were in the keyword in a different shade, so it differentiates it from the keyword. We've also got a history in there, so if you go to the history tab, whatever search criteria you've gone for or looked for, it'll actually populate into your history tab where you can go back in and research. If you close the browser, it ends the session and it wipes out everything that you've put in the history tab. We've got feedback where you can enter your feedback in here, and if you send it off, it'll go to usually a designated email address to whoever you want to get the feedback. And we've also got a little help menu in here, and these links will take you off to our tekReader guide if you really want to find out more about how tekReader does work. And down here we've got what the side menus do. We've got a few little tips here to follow if you want to have a really nice user experience with tekReader. There's also a quick take quick tour which will pop up, and this will actually come up every time, or the first time you sort of start tekReader, and there's a few business rules behind it. You can get rid of it permanently if you want, and if you want to view it again, go into that help content side menu, and you can actually go through, and as you go through the top part up there, as you can see, highlights to each section we're talking about here. So settings, change font size, print. So it gives you a good indication of what the interface does and how to get around it. So that's the overview of tekReader. Again, a lot of people go into work in the morning and they turn their computer on and they keep their browser at the same size day in and day out. Well, if I shrink that browser down, you can see it actually adjusts and it recalculates the pages and puts all the content into whatever screen size that you're actually looking at or using. So if I move off to my iPhone 6 emulator here, so this is a Chrome add-on, and you can see I've got an iPhone 6 look and feel here, and what we've done with that is we've basically tucked away a lot of these menu items up here into this little open button up here. So we can do the exact same sort of things from this menu item as we would from, say, a large screen size where I was demoing earlier. These menus up here are basically areas where we think people will access quickly. So this is like a quick contents access, and we're in the cover page area, so it'll highlight it. We think people might want to bookmark rather quickly than going into the side menu here, and we think people might want to note quickly. If you find that you're maybe doing using other functionality more often, we can actually switch and change those icons around for you. So if I go into the menu system here and I open up the contents, you can see I have the exact same tabs I have in my large screen size, but they're all stacked like you would in a native application. And again, this isn't a native application, it's a progressive web app. If I go into figures and then I want to go down and I want to hit my SVG viewer, up pops the thumbnail, and if I open that up, you can see now that I can actually view a 1-meter diagram on a smartphone. And I can move it in right into the nuts and bolts of it. As you can see your nuts and bolts. So large wiring diagrams are now accessible on smartphone or any screen size via tekReader. If I go off to another area in here, I might just use the quick contents. You might want to have some sort of revision capability built in. So what we do is in our DTD we have some metadata or some attribute values for revisions, and down here we've got a revision bar, so it looks like it would on paper. And if we hit that, it'll pop up the metadata that was included in the XML file. And right now we have author, date, type, and a content and comment. But again, because XML is extensible, you can actually add any attribute value in there to populate that window. And we put an accept button in there because we talked to a few airlines where, they wanted to make sure that the pilots were actually reading the updates. So if they selected the accept button, that would go through to, say, a central database or something where there would be acknowledgement that the pilots were actually read and understood the revision. Obviously, the pilot's got to be truthful in reading that and accepting it in the first place, but I think pilots are pretty trustworthy people. So if we go into maybe some multiple languages, again, it's all XML based, so we've got Unicode built into this, and we can actually, I don't want to go there, I actually want to go there, go to that user guide. And if we go off and look at some multilingual capabilities, multiple languages, we get some French. We have some French clients in Quebec. We've got some German in here. We've got some simplified Chinese. We've got Vietnamese down here. And we also have Arabic right to left. So we can handle the Arabic right to left type Unicode characters. So if I go back to the user guide, I think I've covered everything I want to look at there. I'll now just quickly show you the some tekReader public-facing APIs, and this is what they are here. And if anyone really wants to know more about that, we'll put you on to our CTO, Dave Anderson, who is fully complement of all these APIs. But the thing to mention here is that we've actually integrated partially with Salesforce.com with a client over in Europe, and we've also done a full implementation with PayPal with a client here in Australia. So the implementation process with other web-based type applications is a fairly simple process with tekReader. Behind the scenes, we have good old Google Analytics. So if you want to track metrics and report on them, you can do that with Google Analytics, something that you definitely cannot do, or it's not easy to do with PDF files. So in here, we can just quickly see that this is based on our showcase documents, and I'll show you where to get at them later. But basically, you can go in and look at any sort of metric you want. You might want to go in and look at, what countries are looking at tekReader or our showcase documents. And if you go into the full view of it, it'll give you your map. I'm sure many out there are familiar how Google Analytics work. But if not, then you can go in and say, okay, I want to see, United States, who in the United States is looking at our showcase documents, and you can actually go in and go right down to the city or to the metro. You could build in gender, age groups, all kinds of things on here if you really wanted to track who is looking at your documentation, which in fact is a very powerful part of tekReader as well. So if I go up to, this is just our tekReader.com website, and you've probably all maybe looked at this already, but if you go down to our showcase documents, these are public domain documents that you can get on and look at on your smartphones, your tablets, or anywhere, any device that has a browser, to take a look at what tekReader can actually give you on that end of it. So if I go back into the analytics, and maybe I'll go into real-time overview. Hopefully it'll pop up, and yeah, there. I'm the only one looking at that showcase document at the moment. So Google Analytics also has real-time analytics built into it. Now the last thing, because I'm running out of time here, is this is our publishing tool, and I'm just going to set up the same sort of publishing project that Tom published over in Vancouver. So this is the interface. It's a desktop utility, and if you go into Project New, what you do is you get a list of publications. So this can be set up by your administrator or anyone that's authorized to set up your documentation. So if I go down to XMetaL Danfoss FWK, hit my next button, I go to a work folder, which I now have to go find the actual files or XML files that I want to publish. So mine are sitting in my dev, tekReader content, XMetaL webinar, and I'll say OK. And what I usually do is just swipe the top work folder and put it down into extra folders, because I have an extra folder that I want to publish. And that extra folder is called ancillary. And inside there is where we have our definitions XML, abbreviations XML, and files like that are going to populate those side tabs for us. So if I hit next, I get another menu up where I say, okay, I've got headings. Do I want to auto-generate heading numbers for them? Yes. And to what level do I want to generate those heading numbers? So I want to generate to heading level 3. I wanted tables of contents. In my tables of contents, what level do I want to actually show those tables of contents? Here I want it at a level 3. I want lists of figures. I also want to format my captions. So we have a few placeholder variables in here, and I might want to output the part number with a dash and then the actual incremental number of the figure. And it's the same thing with the tables. I want to do the exact same thing. I want to populate the tables list of tables. In here, I'll hit the same thing I want to do with my figures. So in the next window is where my XML files are, and I want to publish all those XML files. And over here, I can move them up and down depending on how I want to publish them in order to tekReader. I can move files back and forth or publish whatever I want, one file at a time if you're not really going to production and you're actually just looking at them and testing them. So in here, I want to publish all my graphics that are associated to that file. And over here are my ancillary files, which Tom also published over in Vancouver, which shows the key terms, the definitions, and we've got some book JSON and book CSS here. So tekReader is bundled with a default CSS that you can use immediately. But if you're not really happy with the way we've presented our pages and our content on our pages, you can override it with your own book CSS and publish that to give your page contents your own look and feel. So if I move all those files over, they're going to get published. And if I hit finish, that is my document that is set up, and I can hit publish, and it should go through the whole thing that Tom did over in Vancouver and publish up. So with that, I guess I'm done, Mr.
Thanks,
Tools, and it's over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Don. So just to quickly recap on key concepts. We used XMetaL to author and include content of all types against a template or a DTD that either tekReader accepts directly or one that can be used to transform content into tekReader using content adapters. So it can be used with standards such as DITA. XMetaL, user-friendly, extensible, and customizable. XMetaL is easy to integrate with other tools and into your process. Once the content is in final form, we can publish directly from within XMetaL to the cloud and into tekReader. Because tekReader itself works in a web browser, no native app is required. Only a web browser resident on any device, including tablet or mobile, needs to be used to access that content. This means the access is instant. You saw Tom build that content in Vancouver and Don view and demonstrate that same content in tekReader from Sydney. No more secondary processes that are susceptible to issues in production or approvals through app stores. The one action in publishing to tekReader means your audience is able to enjoy your content immediately. Beyond being a full reader experience, because tekReader is a web-based application, you saw all of the, or some of the possibilities that go along with that, including web analytics and interactive pages. All of that applies, and you can take it as far as you can with a progressive web app. So we'll just have a quick look at questions. If we don't get to your question, we'll follow up in email. First question here might be, I'll have a go at answering, but might be one for Tom. It's just about the compatibility with the Mac platform, and I believe that can work in a virtual machine, but I might hand it to you, Tom.
Thanks, David. Yeah, so I did answer that question just now in the questions panel, but for those who didn't see it, the answer is unfortunately no. XMetaL is Windows only, but it does. We have numerous customers who run XMetaL in the Windows emulators on the Mac and have no problems with that, as far as I know.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Tom. There was a question around notes. Can you only add notes at the paragraph level, or can you comment on a word, and is there track changes? Dawn, I might ask if you can answer that one.
Yeah, so with the notes, it works on basically IDs being on every element or data structure in the document. So you can note up fig captions or graphics or any sort of element that has an ID on it. At the actual word level, that's not supported at the moment, but it's something that we could definitely customize. And in terms of tracking those notes, again, they're tracked from the notes side panel, so every note you put in there, they show up. And those notes are individual. They're only individual to the person reading them. And if you go to another device or a phone and log in, you will retain all those notes and your bookmarks. So the reader is really a facilitator of displaying your content in terms of using it as workflow or stuff like that. You can basically use your own tools to do that. If that answers the question. Okay.
Excellent. Well, we're just on time now, so again, if you haven't had some questions answered, we will certainly follow up in email. So thanks everyone for attending. We appreciate your time. You can see the contact information hopefully up on the slide, so please do follow up with us for any further questions, or should you want to set up another demonstration. Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and that will be the end of our webinar today. Look for the email in your inbox sometime later with the recording of the webinar.
Oh, I should mention also that next year, in the new year, you can look for another webinar which will feature an application with DITA.
Thanks, David, and thanks everyone for attending.
Thanks, Tom.